السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Surah Al-Jumu'ah, and we'll take one ayah inshallah ta'ala, which is ayah number 5. Ayah number 5 in Surah Al-Jumu'ah. I recite inshallah and recite after me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. مثل الذين حملوا، ميم الشدة takes two counts، حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. So it's easy inshallah. The translation: the example of those who were entrusted with the Torah and then did not take it on is like that of a donkey who carries volumes of books. Wretched is the example of the people who deny the signs of Allah, and Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people. So here this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving an example, a parable that is given for those who were entrusted with the Torah from the people of Bani Israel. And hummilu comes from hamala, when you carry something. So they have been given the Torah to carry the Torah. And the meaning of that is that it's their responsibility. They were entrusted with it. The Torah is one of the books of Allah, the wahi, revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they have been entrusted with it to carry it. That means to believe in it, to act upon it, not to conceal anything in it, and to convey it to the people. But instead of them doing so, they didn't. They betrayed their trust. They concealed the truth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. They would, whatever they believe in or whatever fits their desires, they will convey it to the people, and they would say this is from Allah. And whatever is against their desire, they would conceal it, they would alter it and change it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is condemning them. So basically those who did not act upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. So the example of them is like Al-Himar, and Al-Himar is the donkey. He carries books. It doesn't make the donkey a learned animal, or because of the books that he carries, he does not understand anything of the books. He's just carrying them, but he does not benefit from it. So he's not benefiting from what he's carrying physically, and he doesn't know what's in it. So the same thing for those who carried the books, or the book, the Torah. They learned it, they memorized it physically, but they don't understand it, or they don't act upon it. They altered it, they concealed it, they changed it. So this is how their example, such a very degrading example, because they deserve that, because they did not live up to the responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted them with. And it's like what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described those who turn away from the truth, are in ghafla and forgetfulness. The disbelievers, أولئك كالأنعام بل هم أضل, that they are like the cattle, but rather they are more deviant even from the cattle, because they are ghafilun. And there's a hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, as Imam al-Kathir rahimahullah in his tafsir, he mentioned this in his tafsir, that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, من تكلم يوم الجمعة والإمام يخطب فهو كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا وَالَّذِي يَقُولُ لَهُ أَنصِتْ لَيْسَ لَهُ جُمُعَةٌ, which means whoever speak in the day of Jumu'ah when the Imam is given khutbah, he's like the himar, like the donkey carrying books. And the one that says to him, be silent, there's no Jumu'ah for him. That means even it's not permissible to say to someone, be silent or be quiet while or during the khutbah of Jumu'ah. And the point here is that the Prophet ﷺ gave that example also to the one that he's supposed to be listening to the khutbah to benefit from it. And which shows also the warning against what is obligatory upon, especially like the khutbah of Jumu'ah. When a person is there, is to be attentive and to listen and to try to benefit from it. And it's the responsibility also for those who give the khutbah that they would make sure and fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they are conveying the truth, and they're saying this is a dhikr from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The khutbah al-Jumu'ah is not a time for people to wage war against one another, to have a political benefit or defeat their opponents or whatever. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called the dhikr. Is to remind the people, is to teach the people. It has to be deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and people have to benefit from it and listen to it. And this is part of the verses in Surah Al-Jumu'ah. And that's how the relationship between what is mentioned here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is condemning the nations before, like here in Bani Israel, those who did not benefit from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted them with. Imagine that if, when Khutbah al-Jumu'ah, Jumu'ah is an obligation upon every Muslim for men. And if they attend every Jumu'ah, and the Jumu'ah is being done in the proper way, according to the way the Prophet ﷺ, reminding the people, teaching the people matters of belief, matters of their deen, and so on. And if that's the case, and people are just sitting there, but they're not listening to any of that, what's the point of the khutbah then? What's the purpose of it? So it's exactly as the example. And that's why the verse is mentioned here in Surah Al-Jumu'ah. As Imam Sa'di rahimahullah, he says with regards to this ayah, that this ummah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose, as mentioned in the previous verses, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised this ummah, whether it's the Arabs or the non-Arabs, if they follow the way the Prophet ﷺ, and if they do so, that they would surpass the people of the book before them. Those who claim to be people of knowledge, while they continue to alter the deen of Allah or conceal the truth about the Prophet ﷺ, that refers to the Jews here and the Christians, those who continue to disbelieve in the Prophet ﷺ, when they altered what's with them with the books. And the example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them. And the question here, did al-himar or the donkey benefit from the books on his back? Would the himar, the donkey, will have any virtue as a result of the books, the beautiful books that he carries? There's no virtue for him. There's no benefit that he would receive. So the only thing that he has is to carry it. So again, this is with regards to the ulama of the Yahud, the ulama of Bani Israel, those who did not act upon the Torah. And one of the most important thing in the Torah for them is to follow Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to convey the message, to give the glad tidings about the coming of the Prophet ﷺ, and to follow the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Wallahu la yahdi al-qawm al-zalimin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not guide the zalimin, the wrongdoers, when they take the path of zulm and wrongdoing intentionally, and they don't turn away from it. This is where their hearts are sealed, and they're not able to receive guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as in Surah As-Saff, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned those who say what they don't act upon. Here also in the surah, condemning those who would be entrusted by the books of revelation and they don't act upon it. And then it will continue with also some other evil characteristics afterwards. And one of the benefits of al-amthal or parables in the Quran, that it makes what's non-physical, makes it very clear by setting a physical example. So again, as an evidence of those who carry the book and they don't act upon it. Can we benefit from it? Of course. Someone memorized the entire Quran, but they don't act upon it. Should they be condemned? Are they worse than someone that did not memorize the Quran? And people should say, well, then I won't memorize the Quran because what if I don't act upon it? No, memorize the Quran and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help and guidance. So either way is evil for someone to claim such a thing, but rather, memorize the Quran and act upon the Quran. Memorizing the Quran is not just to add another copy of the Quran by memorizing it. The purpose of memorizing it is that the Quran would guard us and would be the means of guidance, and for the person to carry the Quran with him at all times, and that is to be guided by the Quran. So this is a step. It's not the end of the path, but this is a step, and a major step, and a beautiful step that would make the person more steadfast upon the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the more the person elevate himself in righteousness and goodness, the more that he should be warned not to fall from above, from a high status, because this can, ruin the person. Right? So, and it's the same thing when someone says, I won't gain more knowledge because the knowledge becomes against me if I don't apply it. This is worse to say such a thing. Gain the knowledge because it's virtue, memorize the Quran because it's virtue, and have the sincere intentions and the truthfulness that to the best of your ability you apply it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that guides. And that's why you see the relationship between this meaning and at the end of the verse, Wallahu la yahdi al-qawma al-zalimin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not guide the wrongdoing ones. So when someone have an evil intention not to be guided, well, what can you help that person? So, and for those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed his favor upon them and they memorize the book of Allah, then they should humble themselves to the book of Allah and seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, and to be again warned against disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while they have the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala carried with them at all times. When we look at the words of the verses of the verse, it starts with مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةَ. Mathal is the likeness or the like or the example. And then mathal is, as you said, an example, right? But and when someone is there's a hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, من أحب أن يتمثل له الرجال فليتبوأ مقعده من النار. Whoever loves for people to stand up for him, and let him prepare himself for a place in Jahannam. And the word is here يتمثل له الرجال, and that's why المثل comes from the standing up straight. فتمثل لها بشرا سويا. When the angel came to Maryam, that he became apparent in front of her standing as a human being, right? So this is what, like an image. So al-mathal is when you give an example of something, like a physical example. So you make something physical, it's like someone standing and so on. So مثل الذين, the mathal, the example, the parable of those who الذين حملوا, as we said, entrusted, from hamala. And al-haml is the pregnant woman, she's called imra'a hamil, that means she's carrying. And al-himl is when you carry a load or something like this. And so it's the word used when someone driving trucks, for example, he got himl. Himl, that means a load. So hummilu, in the passive tense, they have been entrusted, they've been given to carry. And the waw alif for the plural. Hummilu Tawrah. The Torah is the Torah, the name of it. Then lam yahmiluha. Then they did not bear it, they did not carry it in reality. Which here, the two words are the same, but one refers to being entrusted with it, and the second one is being with actions, right? So the word is the same physically, but the actions are different, right? So it's and that's, you would see that in lots of when a person speak or say something. What's the purpose of carrying it is to benefit from it. So you're not really carrying it, right? It's like this. ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار is the example of كمثل, like, is like الحمار, the donkey, from حاء ميم راء. كمثل الحمار يحمل, carries, again the same word. يحمل أسفارا. أسفارا is the plural of سفر, which is seen, فاء راء, and a sifr is the book. And the safar, traveling, uncovers something, uncovers the manners of the person. أسفروا بالصبح, الصبح, as to pray the subh, the fajr, till the daylight comes. That means the night is uncovered. وجوه يومئذ والصبح إذا أسفر, right? And the safar exposes the real manners of the person. So asfara is books, basically. It comes from one, and one is sifr. Bi'sa, wretched is, how evil it is. Bi'sa mathalu, the example. How evil is the example of al-qawm, the people, الذين, those who كذبوا, denied from كذب, الذين كذبوا بآيات الله, by the signs ألف ياء ياء, بآيات الله, والله أن الله سبحانه وتعالى لا يهدي, does not guide, from هاء دال ياء, guidance, والله لا يهدي القوم, the people, الظالمين, the wrongdoers, from ظلم, wrongdoing, themselves or others. So again, this is such a powerful verse, gives a clear example for those who are entrusted by something and they don't benefit from it, as in the case of the wahy, and condemning the actions of the people of Bani Israel in that regards, and warning the believers and the people of knowledge of the believers not to imitate their ways. And it's 5 verses, as you see, we're going very slowly. So hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, that if you have the ability to memorize it and to recite it, alhamdulillah, we're able to recite it together, you're able to get to know some of the rulings of the tajweed and understanding of it. So this is the way of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum in learning the Quran and memorizing it also, so that we can perfect it and have the intention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. Don't rely upon yourself. Don't say, if I memorize it, that means it's a huge responsibility to act upon the Quran. Don't leave it to yourself, right? Because we're weak, but rather rely upon Allah. Seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would bless you by the Quran, that would make you act upon the Quran and make it the most beloved thing to you in this life, that you would act according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Barakallahu fikum. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all benefit and bless our life with ilm and acting upon the ilm. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.